You know her, the fresh-faced beauty who zoomed to the top of the music charts in the 70s and 80s. Tonight, Olivia Newton-John talks about her season of personal struggle and triumph. From the husband 10 years younger.
I had the hang-up that he was younger than me. He had no problem with it, but I did.
To the death of a young friend.
Out of difficulty and out of nightmares come dreams.
And her own battle with breast cancer.
How did you feel when you heard that, in fact, you...
That I had cancer. Say the word. We've got to get used to this word. This word always freaks everybody out. It's just a word, you know.
Finally, information they had from their...
The gorgeous singer who glided to stardom, met her Prince Charming, and lived happily ever after. But then came the disease that changed everything. For the first time, Olivia Newton-John talks intimately about her breast cancer. When Primetime continues after this from our ABC stations. Monday on Big.
It's funny how we look at celebrities. We see them on the movie screens, think we know them, and then one day they speak to us from a totally different part of their lives. Tonight, Olivia Newton-John. She sat down with Nancy Collins to talk about the lessons she has learned from a season of tough challenges and triumphs.
How did you feel when you heard that, in fact, you...
That I had cancer. Say the word. We've got to get used to this word. This word always freaks everybody out. It's just a word, you know. It's a word that describes a condition, and it's not a fatal condition necessarily. I mean, strange as it may sound, was probably the best thing that happened to me.
This is Olivia Newton-John today. She says she learned a lot about herself during her recent battle with breast cancer. While recovering at her new oceanfront home in California, she spoke intimately for the first time about her diagnosis 16 months ago. It was startling news coming from the girl who seemed to live a charmed life.
Have you never been that alone? Have you never tried?
This was Olivia Newton-John in the early 70s when she first broke onto the scene, a perky Australian import who was an instant hit. She would go on to sell 60 million records worldwide and pick up 4 Grammy Awards. And she made it all look so easy.
Nobody wants to know you.
I just seemed to be in the right place at the right time, and things happened.
There was no gnashing of your teeth, no dying to do it, not getting out.
No, in fact, mainly it was like, oh, do I have to?
She asked her parents that same question when she dropped out of high school at 15, an unwelcome move in a family of intellectuals. Her father was a college dean, and her grandfather, Max Born, was a Nobel Prize winner.
Yes, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it's so fantastic to me to know that and wonder what happened to me. No, but he was, I mean, physics, and he was best friends with Einstein.
Was he really?
And my mother actually translated letters between them.
How did you feel in this incredibly academic family not being oriented toward academics?
Stupid.
But she had her own talent. By the time she was a teenager, Newton-John was singing in local coffee houses and was a TV star in her own variety show. At 15, she won a talent contest and a trip to London, where she began performing with Cliff Richards, the Elvis Presley of England. By the time she moved to America in 1974, she had already picked up her first Grammy for, oddly enough, Best Country Female Vocalist.
What do you think your appeal was?
I was the girl next door. I think that's the best. People always seem to... I always look like someone's sister, someone's girlfriend. You know, they felt they knew me. There was that kind of...
The critics were sort of merciless about you, though.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I mean, they said things like, if white bread could sing, it would be Olivia Newton-John. Did those things hurt you?
Yes, I think to a certain extent they did, because every artist always wants to be taken seriously or to believe, you know, and... critics can belittle you very easily, and you forget that you've just gone out in front of 20,000 people, they're standing up and they're clapping for you, and you open the paper the next morning and you go, oh no, it hated me. I mean, it's so silly, but it's very typical. I remember one friend saying to me, what are you worried about? There's so more white bread than anything.
And she certainly sold movie tickets. Her first major motion picture went on to become the top-grossing movie musical of all time.
We go together like
Grease made her a movie star, but her film career fizzled with a musical fantasy called Xanadu, even though the soundtrack went double platinum.
They call it Xanadu.
Despite the fact that Xanadu was not a terrific film, it was a great score. And
Great score in both accounts, if I might say.
touche. Because it was there that you met your husband.
Right.
Matt Lattanzi was a dancer in Xanadu. As an actor, he would go on to play other roles like this one in Rich and Famous. Lattanzi was 20 and Newton-John 30 when they first met.
I had the hang-up that he was younger than me. He had no problem with it, but I did. And so we kept it quiet for a long, long time because I was kind of freaked out, and I was also worried it wouldn't work because of it, and da-da-da-da.
But it did work, and they married in 1984 after 4 years of living together. The romance spawned a new sexy Olivia, who the public initially loved. They bought over 2 million copies of Let's Get Physical. But the public never embraced this image. Her next album of new material sold under 200,000 copies.
To dress up in sexy clothes and all that stuff really wasn't me, you know. It worked in Grease because that was the character, and it worked for certain things, but basically people like to see me as I am, doing the things that I probably do best, you know.
In 1986, she took on a new role when daughter Chloe was born. Though she cut an album of lullabies and started an Australian-style clothing business called Koala Blue, her main focus was motherhood. But her bliss was short-lived. In a 4-year period, beginning in 1988, her clothing business went bankrupt, she suffered several miscarriages, and then tragedy struck Colette Chuda, the daughter of her best friend Nancy.
Nancy and I were very, very close friends, still are very close friends. And she was literally a month behind me in her pregnancy. And the babies grew up as sisters. I mean, they were together all the time, and we traveled together, went on holidays together, and it was ideal. It was, you know, dream life existence.
And how old was Colette?
Colette was 4 when she got sick. She got cancer, a rare cancer called Wilms tumor, and she died when she was 5.
Did you feel like it was your child in a sense?
Oh, yeah, she was like my other daughter. You know, we were always together.
Colette's mother believes her daughter's cancer was caused by environmental toxins. She enlisted Newton-John when she started the Colette Chuda Environmental Fund to raise money to study children's health. Just last Saturday, Newton-John sponsored a star-studded fundraiser at her home.
Today is a very special day. We have people from all over the country, and I hope that we can protect our children.
Still, there was more bad news. Newton-John's father died of cancer in 1992. Days later, she was diagnosed with breast cancer.
I had regular checkups with a surgeon, and I also had mammograms, and it didn't show in my mammogram, but I felt innately that there was something wrong. And my surgeon did a needle biopsy. It didn't show on the needle biopsy either. So he asked me to have a lumpectomy where they would take a look. And they found it, and it was tucked right at the back, hidden, you know. So if I hadn't had regular checkups with this particular doctor and he hadn't watched my progress, and I hadn't been paying attention to my body, because I knew something was wrong.
Were you afraid at all?
Oh, no, not for a second. No, of course I was. Especially the scariest night really was the first night. I had to go in to have these special tests where they put radioactive stuff in your body and you sit under a big machine. And I don't like anything in my body, like, you know, especially radioactive material. Please, I'm going to glow, you know, I don't know what was going to happen. That really was the worst moment for me. And then I made a decision. I'm going to be all right. I'm going to let everyone know that I'm going to be all right, and they have to decide I'm going to be all right. And I really think there's so much power in thought and so much power in your mind. And
When did you know you had to have chemotherapy?
I was still in hospital, and my doctor told me that I would have to have it. So that was actually my second scary moment, because I was very afraid of chemotherapy because I'd watched Colette go through it and how ill it made her, and I had all these, you know, horrible visions of what it was like. But it's very important to support chemotherapy with all the things I did. I had acupuncture, I had massage, I did yoga. You had a tumor in one breast, right? What choices did they give you? Well, they recommended a mastectomy. They did? Yeah. It's called a modified radical. So they take a lot, but they don't take everything. So I was able to have an implant right away, which I was very fortunate. And I'd recommend that to women, that if they have that chance, they should do it, because it makes it a lot a lot easier to cope with.
Do they do it right after the surgery?
Right during surgery, so they do it all at one time.